I think business owners they have to keep 4 plates going at the same time. And those 4 are, the first one is acquiring your ideal customers and retaining them, acquiring your ideal talent and retaining it, acquiring your ideal capital and retaining it, and then managing your own personal energy and growth, acquiring energy and growth and retaining it for yourself, like within you.
You're asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Smart people would know how to use all these different tools. They start with something small.
You'll never get your entire organization if you don't pull off operations. Don't give up.
It can be as small as that.
I think you guys are going to have a blast today.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Delegate That podcast, where we discuss the art and science of delegation, business, management, and leadership. Today, I am stoked to have a good conversation with my friend Jay Bourgana. You've had your hands, Jay, into a bunch of different things and still do, so I really look forward to kind of having some conversations about where you're at, how you've been kind of developing businesses and acquiring businesses and all of that stuff. Obviously not by yourself. So I'm looking forward to chatting about all that. So if you can, Jay, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about what you got going on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Jay Bourgana. I started out in my career in banking. I did everything from consumer banking to business banking to international trade. And then spent about 5 years doing that, spent some time doing selling mutual funds. And then I shifted completely into manufacturing. Spent a few years in operations, managing people within supply chain management in Southern California. I went to China for a couple of week project. I ended up being there for about 5 years. I ran a 3,500 people operation that shipped about $1 billion worth of products to Walmart, Target, and any type of company you can think of. And then I came back post 2008. And I converted from being an executive at a company to being a consultant. And I spent the following 5 years just turning around companies that were having a hard time during post the last recession. And I did that for about 5 years until I got tired of living in hotels for about 10 years. Then I shifted to real estate, where I built a real estate company, a real estate sales company. We went from 0 to 350 million in revenue in 4 years, and then I exited that company. I joined a larger entity, and we did multiple acquisitions. We did about 18 transactions in 20 months until COVID happened. When I completely exited, retired. Now I'm back doing mergers and acquisitions.
Nice. Very good. So you've done very little in your life, it sounds like. Very boring. Haven't really stepped out very much. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to make this podcast difficult, but we'll see what we can do. You know?
Yeah. But I can tell you the theme of the podcast is essentially goes through my whole career. So, from day one, I'm one of those guys that are always trying to get myself out of a job. So this will be fun.
Yeah, and you're going to have to, right? When you're managing, like you said, 3,000 people in an operation, you can't. There is no way to keep yourself in all of those jobs, right? So you've got to figure out ways to make sure that everybody's doing what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing, and all of that. Right person, right seat, all the different things that go along with that. So I would imagine, obviously, with your couple-week trip turning into a 5-year-long trip to China and having thousands of people that are under you, you have no choice but to kind of figure out what your lane is and stay focused on your lane and kind of delegate out to folks. So as you were figuring all of that out, what sort of tools did you take with you when you started kind of creating your own businesses and started acquiring businesses? What sort of skills were kind of lined up amongst both of those different parts of your life?
Well, the skills are really just people management, people leadership skills. When you have done business in multiple countries, in multiple cultures, in multiple environments, you start noticing there are a lot of common patterns. Most people want the same things, and most people there's a great book by Daniel Pink, which I've read a long time ago, and I've used many times, even in my family. The book's name is Drive by Daniel Pink, and it talks about what drives people. And it's based on the study that was done on millions of people in multiple different countries. And there are three things that drive people. None of them are money. And a lot of times people think that money is is how they're going to be able to recruit people or how they're going to be able to keep good people. And it's not. The three things that Daniel Pink prioritize are mastery, autonomy, and purpose. So giving people the ability to develop mastery, meaning learning, opportunities, and growth, given the ability for people to earn autonomy, and trust, so they can do their work in their own, their own way, pretty consistently, and given a sense of purpose of what are we doing here, vis-a-vis the world. How does this business, how is me sweeping the floor in the warehouse makes the world a better place? And if a leader can articulate that link between the person cleaning the warehouse and making the world a better place, to that person, that's a very successful organization. That's an organization that aligned every role with the mission of the company to the purpose of how does it make the world a better place. So those three things, I've found that they're that formula works everywhere in the world, and it works in any industry, and it works in any environment, and it works all the time. So it never failed me. So that's, to me, that's the formula that I've discovered, that I've taken with me across multiple functions in multiple businesses.
Now, it sounds like there's also a mindset component to that with what you're doing, right? You have to have the right mindset to know that that's what you're doing, pouring into your people. Oftentimes, especially very busy folks who are really just trying to, for lack of better terms, pawn off the stuff they don't want to do, as opposed to delegate the stuff they don't want to do. The mindset is not there to actually coach and mentor folks. How did you kind of craft that and develop that over time to make sure that you're developing your people in a way that gives them one of the either mastery, autonomy, or purpose, rather than just say, you know what, I just don't want to do this anymore, it's yours?
Well, yeah. So because I knew that if I don't do the delegation or the transition correctly, it will come back to me. And I don't want it to come back to me. And it also, I want that transition to be successful. I want that person to do the job better than me, not less than me, where I have to hire two people instead of one. So from day one, I needed to make sure that we understand what the roles are. We understand, the job to be done. And then we hire the right person for the job, and then we give them the tools to succeed: the learning, the training, the coaching, the whatever it is that they need to feel successful. For me, the people that were always the people that I like to hire are people who are curious, people that have a servant mentality, a heart, like people that just want to help people. They have this essentially, what Tony Robbins talk about, the drive of growth and contribution. They have these two drives in them. They just don't recognize them. They're not familiar with them, but they have it in them. You could tell when you talk to people, you can tell. When I used to go to companies that were failing, and I learned this from failing companies. When I used to go fix failing companies, one of the things that I first do, I'll walk into a manufacturing business that has maybe like 400, 500 people, and I'll walk in the night shift, and I'll stand at the door talking to every person that walks in the first shift. And I'll say, "Hi, my name is Jay. I'm from blah, blah, blah. How long, what's your name? How long have you been working here? And then what do you do? And how does it fit with the whole thing? What's the role of that function within the whole thing?" And then some people will answer one way. Some people, I'm just listening for the tone really than the information. And I can tell very quickly if a person is curious, and if a person has thought about their job, has thought about what they do here, and has thought about what the company does, and how the whole thing fit. And I can tell who's, maybe they don't know, but they're interested in knowing. They really want to know. No one has told them. And I can tell the person who just doesn't care. And for me, that was very easy, because this is a business I'm walking in. It's this business either going to survive or it's going to be shut down. And then so having the wrong people on the bus is not useful, to the survival of the bus. So we had to get these people out and bring new people in. So it was very quickly. And I mean, I used to do this like within, 1 week, I would clean house, and then I'll start turning, or I'll start bringing new people, and I'm looking for, and then what that does, it actually activates the leaders. It activates those who care. It activates the people that had ideas that no one had listened to before. And it could be, again, it could be the cleaning lady. The cleaning lady has been screaming, telling them, "Hey, we need chemicals so we can clean this thing, or we need, to paint this side." It could be the smallest job, but this person cares enough to say something, and no one has been listening. And then he or she is seeing, some people that shouldn't be there. And so what happens is these people kind of just stop talking, they stop contributing, they're frustrated, but they're just not participant. So when you take essentially the cancer out, the blood starts flowing, and then the innovation starts coming, and the ideas coming, and it's super powerful when you see it. When that happens, it's incredible. So we can get productivity, we can get double or the same productivity with half the people. Sometimes we can get the same productivity with 30% of the people, just because we have activated the people who actually care, the people. So from that experience, I've learned to seek those people when I'm looking to transition a position to someone else, or giving a role to someone else. I'm seeking those people that are curious, and those people that want to serve. And then it doesn't mean that they don't want a better life for themselves. They don't want to make better money. It doesn't mean that they don't want to feel important, and to have significance in their life. All of us want all these things, but if they're lacking the curiosity components, I know that they're not going to be able to learn fast enough, and they're not going to be able to keep learning, because in that role, people have to adapt to change. There's going to be change, and I need these people to be able to be curious enough to want to learn, and to want to adapt to this change that's coming. And also, I want them to put the customer first, to put their team members first, to put the company first. And if they have that servant heart, there will be a situation where they have to make a choice between themselves and the company. And I want them to choose the company, because there are times where we have to work extra hours. We have to come on the weekend. We have to do the extra thing that we don't want to do. But because we come from that servant side, we just want to take care of our company. We want to take care of our people. We want to take care of our team. Or we want to take care of our customers. These people are going to make the right choice, if you will.
I think you hit on a few really solid points that I appreciated in there. So one thing that oftentimes business owners don't think about is how firing is actually a gracious thing to do. Like you said, you implied the folks that you let go doesn't mean they don't want drive, they don't want different things. But it's not with this company. If you letting the person go is actually gracious, because the reason you're letting them go is because this isn't the right place for them. So go ahead and let them go so they can go and thrive somewhere else, because they're going to still want to chase that. They're going to still want to have fulfillment in their life. And why keep them in a place that's not giving them the fulfillment? Another thing that I kind of wanted to jump on was and I've seen this in a couple different companies I've been a part of, is people will stop doing the things that they know they're supposed to be doing because they see the other people being lazy or being bums. And they're like, why, they're losing their purpose in their job. And it's like, man, oh man, just that hurts. And I've been that person before, where I had to catch myself going, dude, just because other people are doing this doesn't mean I need to be a bum. But it, you are the five people you're around most is a legitimate thing, right? And if the feeling you have is the overwhelming amount of people, or the people you see are negative, you're just going to start to drop that. So keep those people in the right seats, as you're building out. As you started doing more and more of this, and you're building things out, how did you kind of develop a hiring and firing system to know that you're hiring the right people to put in these seats, and you're firing the right people that need to be removed? Obviously, we talked a little bit about the firing side, but the hiring, that is oftentimes a very difficult thing to filter through the right people. How did you know that you had those right people?
Humility. So you have to have humility around your sense of um, you have to have humility around your judgment, because I'll give you an example. When you think of the NFL, there are billions of dollars that are involved. Hundreds of millions of dollar decisions when the scouts go and pick a quarterback or pick a receiver or first round running back. And when you look at the numbers, the success rate, of these people, these are scouts that have been, scouts their whole life, and their parents were scouts and their grandparents were scouts. So they have like this, experience and mastery of their skill. And when you look at the outcome, the results, how many quarterbacks that go in the first round that actually win the Super Bowl or that actually end up having long careers, and how many of the receivers, it's very low. So the hit rate is really low. So when you accept the fact that even the most experienced recruiters, selectors of talent, make mistakes, then it's freeing. So now all I need to do is run lots of experiments. So if I'm hiring, I'm gonna know that I'm gonna miss on a hire at least 3 or 4 times before I find the one. And I know that when I see the one, I'm gonna know that's the one. It's just gonna it's gonna blow. Like week 1, I'm gonna know if I've hired the right person. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna interview more people. So it's more work on my end. So I'm gonna interview way more people. The top of my funnel has to be large. I have to be comfortable with with saying no a lot, and I have to be comfortable with interviewing people a lot, and I have to be comfortable in changing and refining my criteria as I go. And then eventually I'm gonna have to be comfortable firing the person if I made a mistake. I'm just like, hey, I'm really sorry. I messed up. It's on me. I failed you. I thought you would, I saw this in you, and I thought it would be a good fit. But unfortunately, now that you're here after like a couple of weeks, I can clearly see, and you can clearly see that it's not working. So, I think it's the best thing is to give you the opportunity to go find, a better position somewhere else. And I'll just go back and interview some more people. It's worth it. Like, it's kind of like finding a spouse or finding a partner or it's hard. It's hard. You have to go and you have to kiss a lot of frogs, and you have to interview a lot of people, and you have to refine what you're looking for, and you have to clarify what you're looking for, and you have to use multiple channels, and then you have to wait, and then but it's worth it, because when you find the one, it rocks your world, and then now your job is to keep them forever.
You really hope that you do that the first time, but we all know that's not the case, right? That is not going to be the case, more than likely. The hard part that I've seen, and I'm wondering if you kind of feel that same way, is like when you first make that hire, and even if they're the right person, that's still a lot of work when you first bring somebody on, like teaching them everything they need to know, getting them involved in the business, getting all this stuff set up. So what sort of processes do you have to make sure that your onboarding is where it needs to be? Because it doesn't matter whether it's a virtual assistant that you're hiring, or whether it's your executive assistant that's going to be in your office half the time, or whether it's your COO. It takes a lot of onboarding for these people. What sort of systems and processes do you use to kind of make sure that's going smoothly?
So I'll tell you a little bit in my real estate sales business, because that business, the bottleneck was the recruiting. So the revenue of the company was driven by the number of talented people we have in our team, on our team. So and the way I think of business in general, I think business business owners have to keep 4 plates. Like if you think of like the circus acrobat, they have to keep 4 plates going at the same time. And those 4 are, the first one is acquiring your ideal customers and retaining them, acquiring your ideal talent and retaining it, acquiring your ideal capital and retaining it, and then managing your own energy and growth, your own personal energy and growth. And continue, and so you can say acquiring energy and growth and retaining it for yourself, like within you. Mm-hmm. Because if you stop growing, you stop having energy, the whole thing's just not gonna work. So most entrepreneurs or most business owners do not give as much attention to the identification of what the ideal talent is, and they don't give the same way that they give attention to what their ideal client is, and they don't give as much attention to the process of acquiring and retaining your talent than they do in acquiring and retaining clients.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think those have to be equal. And I can show you that, like, I've seen so many businesses and I consult with a lot of businesses, and I ask the question, I say, hey, if I give you 1,000 customers, if I give you the option between 1,000 customers and 1,000 talented people on your team, which one would you pick? And they get confused. They don't know. Or they'll tell me, sometimes they'll say custom. Sometimes even it's funny because sometimes I'll meet the husband and wife, or I'll meet a CEO and a CEO, and then each person will say something different. Mm-hmm. And so they don't clear what their bottlenecks are, and a lot of times you just don't understand what's driving their business. It's probably not the customer. It's actually your technicians, because the more good technicians you have, the more revenue you can get. But they think, oh, it's always the customer. It's not. So from that perspective, in my world, back in the day in the real estate world, we had a process. We knew, there was a group of real estate agents out in the marketplace. And then there's a pipeline of people that are coming into the marketplace. And then there's people that are still thinking about entering the marketplace, but not in it. And we needed to identify all of them. And then we needed to craft a message to communicate and distribute that message to them so they can come to us. So we identify what's the ideal profile for us. For example, for me, it was a certain age group. They had to have a certain income, and then they had to be transient, not from the town. They had to be from somewhere else, and then they had to have a big dog. Somehow, some way, those are like 4 criteria that were filtering my best people, the people that are my ideal target profile. So we ran campaigns targeting those 4 things. And then we had 4 messages. The message number 1, come join us because we will teach you and give you the resources to master your craft. Message number 2, come join us because we have a community of people that are fun and cool and great to be around. Message number 3 was, come join us because we care about our community and we participate in activities. We build Habitat for Humanity. We do dog adoption things. We do, all kinds of give back to the community. And then 4, come work with us because we have the latest and greatest technology. We're technology forward. We're the best from a technological perspective. So those were messages that we found were effective at attracting our ideal talent profile. Mm-hmm. And then now when and we had campaigns going all the time, and I had 2 people that were dedicated. I had 1 person that's dedicated toward recruiting, which is the sales part. And I had a person that's dedicated toward training and coaching, and which is the education part. And then those 2 people were compensated based on the productivity of the group. So they're aligned, in terms of, they'll be available, they'll answer questions, they'll support it because their success is aligned with the person's success. Mm-hmm. And we had literally a full on, we had mapped the recruiting, field points. So when someone interacts with our ad, what do they see? What do they feel? When they click on a landing page, what do they see? What do they feel? When they fill their information, what happens? Someone calls them. Is that a girl or a guy? What do they say? What words do they say? How do they express what we want them to do next? When they walk in, who's the first person that greets? What do they see? And who's the person that greets them? Where do they sit to wait? What kind of water do we offer them? How long do they stay in that waiting area before we take them to the office? Which chair in the room they're going to sit on? What kind of flowers they're going to see on the desk? Literally, we had mapped the feel point of that experience when they come to us. We wanted to, when a really talented person comes into our door, if we want that person will join us.
Yeah.
That was essentially the section, that process. That was the goal. If someone that we liked comes in, we will get them. And then now next, what happens next is, how do we introduce them to the rest of the team? So one of the things that I learned from the multifamily guys, I was at a conference once, and they were talking about how the high-end multifamily guys were spending a lot of money on amenities. And there's these high-end apartment complexes where they're building these wine cellars. And I'm like, why the hell are you building a wine cellar? You could put a big unit there. It can revenue. Why are you wasting? So what they were telling me that they've done their study, and they found that when what they know that their number one cost is turnover. So their goal is to limit turnover. And what they found is that when a tenant has no friends, it's a 50-50, or maybe probably 60-40 that they're going to leave. If the tenant has one friend, that changes and it goes up to 70%, they're going to stay. And then if they have two, it goes up to 80. If they have three, it's like a 95. They're going to stay. So they were creating these these spaces where people will make connections and build relationships and have friends, and therefore they will stay. So part of my retention strategy is to make sure that anyone that comes into my world has 2 to 3 to 4 friends. My goal was always that when one of them wants to move, 5 of my people in my team are going to be the ones that help them. When their wedding, there's a wedding, half the wedding is going to be us. Mm-hmm. When there's a birth, 90% of the gifts are going to be coming from us. You know what I mean? So I wanted that type of connection, and I wanted, so we had a third person that was compensated on how many connections a person makes.
Wow.
And that person was in charge of, because what we do, we disc everybody that comes in, and we do a lot of personality profiling, so we can understand who's going to match with who. So we connect them. We make that introduction to 1, 2, 3 people for that first week. And then we'll pay for them to go take them for lunch. Maybe we'll organize a happy hour. We want people to be connected. So when they're in our ecosystem, if they're well compensated, which we run a good ship, so people were making a lot of money, they have certainty. We were fun, and we did a lot of fun things, and our world is always changing, evolving. So that gave the variety. When the friendships and the connections provided the love and connection, the fact that we were marketing and we were elevating people, we'll position people as, and let me introduce you to the best person in this location, or the expert, our team member who's an expert at this, and we'll create a page on our website for them, and we'll create a beautiful profile for them, and we'll have a professional photographer and a videographer do a video for them. So that gives them that significance. And then we already know that they're driven by, growth and contribution. So, once you deliver 3 of the 6 drivers, you become hard to get rid of. You know what I mean? You just become addictive. As a company, that person is never going to go anywhere. As long as those needs are met within your organization, that person is not leaving.
So you've created a culture moat, right? Where, you have your own moat that is around your entire business. Building that culture out is the protection for keeping people and retaining them and having that all set up. And that's I think a phenomenal way to kind of look at business in general, is making sure that the culture is as strong as you can possibly make it.
And one of the biggest things is that being very sharp in that ideal talent profile. What does that look like? And then, and being very, very strict around not allowing deviations from that, because, that just creates problems within the culture. And then eventually at some point, the culture has its own immunity, and the people will just push that the wrong fit out. And I mean, it just stands out very quickly. People's like, oh, this person's got to go. Or they'll come and say, "Oh, this person is good." I mean,
these are my people.
Yes. Yeah. So the people will know. They will know when there's the right fit or the wrong fit, and as long as you empower them. So that's where that part where you pull and then you empower them. Once you start getting that response from them, when the team comes and tells you, "Hey, this guy's got to go," or "Hey, this guy is amazing. We need to promote him," whatever. That's when you pull back. That's when you're like, "Okay, guys, you guys got it."
Out of personal curiosity, what is it about a big dog that's the type of person that you want?
It was so weird. It was so weird because I did surveys and I asked something like about 50 questions and I had like a spreadsheet with 50 columns. And I went and tried to identify, I took like the top, they sorted by the top producers. And I literally just went one by one, and I got rid of the criteria that didn't match, and I just grabbed the ones that matched. And then one day I was just literally going on their Facebook, and then and I clicked one by one, and it was weird because 4 Facebook profiles in a row had in the Facebook picture had the person sitting next to a big white dog. So they're different dogs, but they were all white and they were all big. And they were like there was and the people were different. There were guys, girls, ladies, there were everything, and it was just like, wow, that's amazing. And I looked and I found that everybody on the team, all the salespeople had big dogs, and all the admin people had cats.
Well, I guess maybe I should be a salesperson with my big dog.
And I never had that, and I had neither. And I'm not a pet person. Yeah, so it was fascinating.
That's funny. Well, I'm not sure that everybody's going to use that as their criteria, but I think that it's rather comical to work out. Yeah.
Listen, it could be that all your guys like to eat ramen. For all it doesn't matter. It's just like figure out what's the thing that links all of them together. And I think I was talking to my wife this recently. I think a lot of these things really have nothing to do with specifics. It's mostly have to do with you caring enough as a leader to observe and to watch. You know what I mean? And if it's like having a garden. If you have a garden that you never pay attention to, that garden's gonna die. It's gonna be like not that great, whatever. But if you're there, watering it, fertilizing it, taking the weeds out, putting flowers here and there, or sometimes just observing it and doing little things, it's gonna be in a much better shape than it would if you didn't. So to me, just the act of paying attention, you're going to discover things. You're going to discover that all your guys like to watch football, or all your guys like to, or all the team members like to eat tacos or whatever. Just understand kind of what is the thread that's, common, and then pull on that. And then what's behind that. And then you're going to build a profile on what what are the psychographics of your ideal talent profile. And you should do that with your customers as well. And you should do that with your investors as well. And we talked about capital earlier. You should do that with your investors. You should do that with every, with your spouse or your friends, whatever. It's just care enough to pay attention to find out recognize the pattern.
Yeah. So, I really appreciate you, Jay, pouring into everybody that like this. I've known you for a few years, and that is definitely what you do. You love pouring into folks and educating and teaching and guiding, and you definitely are full of a bunch of knowledge. So, and I think you're even now doing something along those lines right now on some acquisition stuff. So go ahead and tell us about what that is before we kind of wrap up here.
Yeah, so that's what I do now. So I buy and roll up companies in service industries, whether it is consumer services or B2B services, and I also teach entrepreneurs how to acquire companies, how to scale them, and how to potentially exit if they want to, or grow that business if they want to keep it forever. So we have a cohort style 12-week program where we take people through all the phases of acquisition. And then we have group coaching where we, answer the questions as they're going through transactions. And it's a great community. People like each other, they help each other, and they've been super active and super and very transactional. So there's a lot of transactions happening within the group right now.
Nice. Not transactional, transactional.
No, not transactional. Yes, transacting. Yes, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely love it. Well, Jay, for folks that are listening, again, I'm sure they have taken a massive amount of notes. I think I'm on page 4 of my notes just myself. But for those who are listening, if they want to reach out and kind of figure out how to be a part of your acquisition collective, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and learn more?
Yeah, they can. I'm on all the social networks, Jay Bourgana or Acquisition Collective, or go on the website acquisitioncollective.biz, B-I-Z.
Awesome. Well, Jay, thank you so very much for jumping on. We really appreciate you being on the Delegate That podcast. Everybody listening, please let us know. Comment below. Let us know what your favorite part of this was. What was your biggest takeaway from the conversation with Jay? If Jay can be of service for you, if you're looking at acquiring a business, reach out to Jay. As you can tell, wealth of knowledge. It's really awesome to have you on, Jay. Thank you so much for sharing so much with the audience. And we will see everybody on the next show.